It's Chelsea.
It's Nina.
And you're in the Critic's Kingdom.
So today we are going to do Twitches 2.
Go Twitches.
Go Twitches. Go Twitch. Oh.
I feel like you do it twice because it's Twitches. But I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Twitches 2 came out in 2007, which was, I think, for both of us kind of past when we were
so far past.
We were both
entering high school,
or 13, 14ish.
2007 was 14, entering in high school I was in high school. I was a freshman
grade, so
that's true. Well, my birthday is right before school starts, so I'm always whatever age. Yeah, all right.
We are not even a month apart. That's the thing.
And you're born after me, so you're right. You're 110% right.
She's a September baby. I'm an October baby.
I'm used to not being able to say that because I'm used to everybody being older than me, and it's a thing where they're like, "Oh, 14, I was in 8th grade," and it's like, well, I was never 14 in 8th grade, so I know it's.
No.
I know it's freshman.
I too was
never 14.
Was 13 in 9th grade.
Yeah.
So for like a semester.
I got you.
For 1 month. But anyways, that's so unrelated.
So deeply unrelated.
So maybe that should show you how much this movie. Anyway.
Yeah, no, that is an indicator of how much. I will also say though, what I think is also an indicator of this film is the way we're laughing right now.
Yeah.
Just the fun that's being had trying to even begin telling you about this film.
Yes. Twitches 2. So, just to kind of recap it a little bit. So, we have our good favorite sistren, the Tia and Tamara.
The Tia and the Tamara, yes.
Yes, exactly.
They definitely deserve
our favorite twins.
Definite articles.
Yes, our favorite twins. And they're back as Alex and Cameron, respectively. Now, we see that Alex has moved in with Cameron and her family, so she's, moving up on the east side.
But
finally
not
got
really,
a piece of that pie.
Not really, because they got her sleeping on the cot in her sister's room when they got a whole mansion.
It's a literal cot, guys. We're not even being dramatic. It's actually it's a Murphy bed. Is that the ones that you can pull out of the wall?
Yeah,
that's literally what it is.
She get stuck in it at one point.
She does.
So
Alex accidentally Cameron pulls it up.
And it's like, y'all, we see y'all have tennis courts in the backyard.
Her room is huge. Her room is a New York apartment. Why is this girl sleeping on a twin
New York
cot?
Apartment. Are you kidding?
I know.
There's a hole in the wall.
It's true. Why is this girl sleeping on a twin cot? But yes, in theory, she has finally got that piece of the pie. Okay? We're in the Jeffersons now. Fish don't fry in the kitchen. So, all that to say that, she's now moved in with them. They all live together. Cameron's parents love Alex because, obviously, since Alex grew up poor, she has manners. And Alex clearly does not. So, Cameron clearly does not. So, and Alex clearly, just knows how to clean up after herself.
So she's getting a lot of oh, Alex, you're so sweet. Alex, you're so this. And Cam is having a sibling for the first time, and in her head learning to share, and in her head feels like Alex is doing it to show her up in some way.
Right.
When I don't know if anyone else has a sibling. I have a little sister, and it's a thing with us. It's always a thing of I have to remind her sometimes. Sometimes she has to remind me that it's actually not about you, and it has nothing to do with you.
Right.
And you could also just be better. If you did that, you wouldn't feel this way.
Right. Everybody is the main character in their own novels.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I'm certainly the main character in mine.
Even if you are siblings, I wouldn't know. I am but a single child.
Lucky bastard. You have no idea.
But yes, so they're now living together, and when we start off, we see that their mother, Queen Miranda, is in Coventry being followed by this shadow, so she gets alarmed and she tells Ileana and Karsh, which, by the way, Ileana has been replaced by a different actress. Just want to note that. Karsh is the same. And she's like, can you please go get my daughters, and we need to talk about this because we need to handle this shadow. This has happened a couple times. So Ileana and Karsh go to the mortal world, and they're like, yo sis,
yo sisters times two.
Sisters.
Sis times two.
No, they're like, hey Twitches, like you guys need to come and see your mom because she's a little worried. But Cameron, now that she's finally got her piece of the pie, is like,
that's Alex.
You're right. Sorry.
It's
Alex has finally got that piece of the pie and is like, excuse me, I'm about to go to the University of Toronto starting this morning.
It's really called Waverly.
It's actually called Waverly.
The film.
In the movie.
But they are clearly in Toronto, so like where else could it be?
So I'm just going to call it the University of Toronto. Please don't sue me, University of Toronto. I don't know the name of your mascot.
Can they do that internationally? I feel like we're protected in some way, shape, or form because we're...
I mean, we're not disparaging it. I've heard it's a great school. I think it's
I just mean like we can use their name as freely as we want. Cause we're not beholden.
I guess like you can say Harvard anytime you want. And University of Toronto, I've heard is the Harvard of Canada. I don't know if that's accurate. I kind of just made that up. But
I was gonna say I've never heard that, and I
go with it, Nina. We're trying not to get sued.
I think we're fine. I think we're protected.
Anyways, so Alex is about to start her first day at University of Toronto, so she's like, nah, I'm going to school.
I will not squander this opportunity.
Right. Alex can go on with you, though, to Coventry and, like, hang out with Mom for the day because she has nothing else better to do, I guess.
Apparently she has independent study.
Right, so she's not taking classes every day.
I don't know if that tracks 100%, but whatever.
Yeah. So Cameron goes with them to Coventry. And she's like, I want to become a princess because that's what I am. Like, I want to learn how to be a witchy princess. So they start giving her, like, they're like, we're going to give you witch lessons and teach you how to do things and, like, use these spells, like, properly because you don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, that sounds cool. In the meantime, while she's practicing the spell, she meets a young lad named Dimitri. And she thinks he's a prince. And he doesn't really dissuade her from that fact, but then we find out that he's actually but a scullery maid.
So, quote Wikipedia, they describe him as a powerless kitchen servant.
Yes.
Which is entirely accurate.
So she thinks he's something that he's not, and that's what's kind of set up there. She also gets stuck in a wall at this point, trying to run through the wall, which was an interesting scene. But she also has to assure her mother that, like, everything is okay because Alex is not there with her. Meanwhile, Alex is at U of T, and she's, like, just trying to get her book learning. But then this young man with a fro comes over, and she's like, ooh, he fine! And then Beth from, the first one, who is Cameron's friend.
She was the cat.
She's like, oh, girl, that's Cameron's ex-boyfriend. And then Alex is like, oh, well, obviously I can't mess with that. Like, that's my sister's ex. But he's over here like, ooh, another one.
Another one. You look just like her, but have a different personality?
Right, which is
this is excellent.
What a thing that I feel like all men wish.
All people. Do you have any idea how many men in my life I wish there was someone who looked just like them, but didn't act the way that they did?
Yeah, no, that's
Please.
True.
I'd be so happy. I think that's just, if it happens, you're a lucky one.
Yes. Marcus? Lucky. That's not how you pronounce his name, by the way. I'm just saying it like that. But yes, he's a lucky one. So they're, having their little moment, and he talks to her, and she's like, ooh, I'm kind of feeling him, but at the same time, like, ooh, that's my sister's ex. Awkward. And meanwhile, back in Coventry, Miranda is explaining to Cameron that her and her sister are going to have to come together during the solar eclipse, which is in 2 days, and she really needs them to perform a vanquishing spell because she's been having shadows following her around, and she thinks it's Thantos who is in the Shadowlands.
But Cam does experience. So the shadows are also possessing people.
Yeah,
it seems like we don't know who the shadow is.
Right.
But at some point they possess the maid, I think, and someone else, and in particular,
another scullery maid.
Yeah, the maid from whom we find out that the first maid, that Dimitri, is actually a maid.
Right.
When Cam walks out the door, he is possessed by the shadow and leads Cam to a very Sleeping Beauty-esque.
Yeah.
Sort of.
She's walking up a tower. And...
like Spindle in a Tower situation. Yeah. Where she finds a ring.
Mm-hmm.
And then she brings it back when she goes back to the regular realm. She brings it back, and Artemis is like, oh, "This is our dad's ring."
Alex, yeah.
Alex. It's like this. They got too many names, y'all.
Yeah, there's a lot of names in
It's like
there's names.
that's
there's
our dad's
twins.
ring.
It's a lot.
That's our dad's ring. I don't
Right.
think it's Thanos at all. I wrote that he was still alive, never died.
Right. So they're like now they're both kind of they start receiving other clues too that their father may still be alive, also in the Shadowlands. So at this point, Alex takes it upon herself to be like, wow, we need to investigate this, and it most likely is Dad, so we need to, like, instead of vanquishing the shadow, which Mom asked us to do with the solar eclipse, we need to free him and free the shadow, which is most likely our dad, Aaron. And Alex is like, I don't think that's okay. Like, I don't think we can really, like, deceive our mother.
Even though I just met both of y'all, so
right.
Really.
So she's just like, I don't think we can do that. Like, that's not okay, because we don't know who this shadow actually is.
Exactly. I think she's right when she says better safe than sorry.
Right. And then Alex is just
reasonable.
like, she just keeps being like, no, like, we need to do this. She's like, make the right decision when you say the spell, because you find out that the spells are actually very, like, the same until you get to the last line. It's like, instead of saying, and vanquish them and all their friends, you say, like, and free them and all their friends or something. So she's just like, Cameron, you just need to say, she's just like, Cameron, you need to say that. You just need to say that at the end. And Cameron is like, I don't know, but maybe we'll decide when it happens. So
she tells her that she's gonna do it. I feel like, or like before because what's her name?
She gives her more hope.
Shocked.
Yeah. She gives her more hope that she'll do it, and when they finally get to the day of the solar eclipse, and it's literally like they do this in the veranda in the middle of the castle, so everybody is watching them. So it's a little bit
very ceremonial,
right? So it's like everybody's wearing sunglasses and watching them from the balcony. From the balcony,
yeah, the solar, because they're all also watching the solar eclipse, which is like, all right, fair enough, but still, just as a shot. Again, this film was quite entertaining.
It is a wild shot, and they say the vanquishing spell, and Cameron ends up doing the vanquishing part. She doesn't free the shadow. So then Alex is super mad. Well, not super mad. She's disappointed and she's sad, and she's like, well, I'm going to figure out how to get my father free somehow.
But meanwhile, because of the way the vanquishing spell works, is that it doesn't just, dissipate the Shadowlands as one would assume. That's what I assumed.
Yeah.
Instead, this little, like, raging ball of light, because balls of light in this franchise.
It's very love and light, this whole franchise.
The raging ball of light is going around trying to find all the shadows.
Yeah.
So it's just like pinging up all over the place and destroying many things in the process.
Right. So at that point, Alex runs into, like, her father's study, and she's like, Dad, like, give me a sign, and, like, let me know that you're here. And then she starts feeling out the wind, and then and then she's like, you have to tell me how to free you. And then the spell book opens up in front of her, and it's called, like, the freedom spell. And then
it's like it's a spell that gives to transfer power.
Yeah, you transfer powers, which would inevitably,
which would, in theory, the idea is that would then allow the person trapped in the Shadowland to have enough power to overcome the Shadowland.
Right, and to come back to full human form. So, because in this scene, she's like, it says I have to touch you. So then the wind has to materialize. The shadow gets closer. Also, this whole time it's shouting Artemis.
This really, like, low, creepy tone. You're like, why?
Artemis.
If I heard anybody call my name like that, I would not think. It never even says do it now. It just says Artemis. If I heard a creepy tone like that saying my name, I would not think it was my daddy.
Yeah,
in no scenario.
No.
My father would never speak to me like that.
So then a hand forms out of the shadow somehow. And it doesn't have her, but she thinks it's her dad because it's like a white hand.
And I guess it doesn't have the ring on it.
It doesn't. But she also had the ring, so it's like. Yes. So the white hand comes out, and then she grabs it, and she's like, I give you everything.
Literally, that's all she says. That is the whole thing that she says. She says, I give you everything. And it should never, under any circumstances, if you are a magical being, it should never be that easy to give your power away. All of your power away to someone else.
Exactly.
That is madness.
Exactly. So then she gives him everything, and then we find out that it was Thanos, her evil uncle from the first one. Her evil uncle who has come back. And he's now like, thank you so much, Artemis, for bringing me back. Now it's time to kill your father, because he actually is still alive in the Shadowlands. And then, Alex is like, no! But what can she really do?
Yeah,
so then she runs
has
back
no power.
Right, because now she's fucked up the thing. Completely.
To put it in layman's terms.
She's just messed everything up. So then she meets up with her, because I think, does Cameron lose her powers too?
Yeah, because
they both
she gives her because their powers are tied to each other.
Intertwined because twins.
So I give you everything, and you've given all of her powers well.
Right. So then they're both in a rock and a hard place, and then so is everybody else, because they get out of the castle. They have to leave. And
Thanos kicks him out or locks
him out.
Yeah,
Thanos locks him out.
Because he has extra power now.
Right. So then they're trying to get back in, and then the way that they're able to get back in is the scullery maid, Dimitri, gets them back in, because we actually had found out in the beginning that when Aaron died, when all this stuff happened with the twins being born and Aaron dying and all of that, Miranda actually stripped everybody else in the kingdom of their powers except the royal family, or anybody that worked in the castle.
Which is
wild.
It's a thing that happened.
So
okay.
But after talking with them, because they were that's,
after Cameron was that's crazy.
Cameron literally said,
Mom,
that's insane.
That's you bugging. You can't do that.
Yeah, you can't do that to people. She had given it back unbeknownst to everybody else, but that's how Dimitri is able to get them back into the castle, because obviously Thanos didn't know that now even the scullery maids have powers. So he gets them back in. They end up having a final face-off with Miranda, Cameron, Alex versus Thanos, and then their father, who Thanos manages to turn back into a human. But
so that he can vanquish him for real?
Right, so he can actually vanquish him and he's not just a shadow anymore. So they have the little final face-off, and Thanos at one point, he has the better of them, and he has Alex off to the side of the castle, and he had thrown Ileana and Karsh down the tower.
They do go down, yeah.
They go down the tower. They're hanging on by one of the turrets.
Straight up off the building.
And Miranda and Cameron are just trying to figure it out, but then they end up coming together, the three of them, and vanquishing him. And
again with love.
With love and light, as per usual. And then their father fully comes back now as a full human, because his brother has been vanquished. I think because also in the middle of the particular tower that they were in was a hole to the afterlife. Yeah. So then they basically pushed him in, and Thanos died, because, you can't really survive that. And so that's when Aaron comes back as a full, human being. And after that, we cut to Ileana and Karsh getting married. And everybody is there. When I say everybody, I mean even,
Beth, is that her name?
Beth.
The one in the cat suit.
Cameron's ex-boyfriend, and maybe now Alex's man, Marcus.
It's very unclear.
Dimitri is there. It's just everybody is at this wedding randomly, and then it's done, it's officiated by Aaron and Miranda together. Also, Cameron's parents are there too. And yeah, it was a very random ending, but that's literally the ending, except everybody then says, go Twitches.
Again, which they did in the first one too, I think.
And that's how it ended?
Yeah. I mean, it is the same type of ending as the last one, where the idea is that it's the party is back. Well, yeah. That's that the party is back on or whatever.
Right.
We just didn't need to watch them get married. It was a long scene, and
it was
it didn't need to.
It wasn't necessary.
Well, it is a short film, so I guess, but still.
Right. Not short enough. So I guess to get into the review, we had talked about the idea of choosing to govern when you have power, and then doing what you want to do, and how you kind of see that played out between the twins. It's Alex is very much I want to do what I want to do, and I think that I think that my father is here, which is yes, I understand that on an emotional level, but it's also when you wear the crown,
yeah,
things go beyond you at that point.
It's also a thing of kind of in that vein, things go beyond you at that point. I think that there's a difference in sort of responsibility that's personal versus responsibility that exists for persons.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking about it in the way in which if you break it down, Alex has actually had to sort of fend for herself her whole life.
Right.
So she is actually quite responsible. Like you would say, she's but it's when it's sort of shown to her, thrust upon her, that actually no, like you're meant to look after everyone. Like you're actually meant to like be this great thing. She's like, well, I actually just want to take care of me, right? And she's very good at doing that. Versus her sister, who has never had to work for anything, right? But in doing that, like in never having to work for anything, it is because like it was in America with money, so like born rich is born great, right? Like that's sort of how that works here. When that responsibility like enters her life, it's like, oh no, of course. Like obviously I'm meant to be a magical princess and learn how to rule. And it's just interesting the way that those two tracks work, because I don't know, I feel like if you hopped over to the UK and like, you know, Charles, or like if you took Charles and like another teenage boy at that time, I'm really thinking about The Crown, so that's what I'm seeing in my head.
Yeah.
But like I'm sure if you took Charles and another teenage boy at that time, it would be a thing of, you know, that teenage boy could look at Charles and be like, you are actually incapable of doing anything. And Charles is like, yeah, but that's because I have to do everything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like the other way, it's like you're able to do so many things for you because you don't have the burden of having to do everything for everyone else. You know what I mean? Right. So it's just an interesting dichotomy of human history and governance and quote unquote leadership that's, I guess, just comes up.
Yeah,
and is showcased here.
And I feel like they show it pretty well, like just like the idea of doing.
Or things. they show the dichotomy.
Well, yeah.
I don't know if well is the best word.
This
for
isn't,
this.
you know, this isn't The Crown, but
this isn't The Crown.
this is The Crown with magic, which would be lovely. By the way, somebody should make that.
I would love that.
Yes.
Which is crazy. It's like that's what this should have been, but it was a decom. You know?
Yeah, I know. It's like, could you imagine a black crown with magic?
Yeah, like it would be so dope.
We need that.
I want to make that though. Like that's our idea. Don't take that from us.
Yeah.
It's coming, y'all.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think it again goes similar to what we talked about in the last one, where it's like more black people in magic needs to be a thing.
Generally speaking.
In general. But yes, no, it's like this. It does get into the idea though, like the selfish versus the selfless, and it was very interesting to see that the one that you would have expected to be the most responsible in thinking about others was not in this case. And I think that's also because she doesn't have a father, so the idea of even having that father figure,
she's never had a father,
right? So it's like the idea of like getting that father figure that she's wanted back so badly obviously superseded the needs of the people in that case. But you know, unfortunately, The Crown is typically very cutthroat, so it doesn't allow for that kind of stuff.
It doesn't, because people always they're coming at you. Yeah, uneasy lies ahead, yo. Yep. You know, you're you can't rest in that scenario. And that's a good thing that they sort of in theory show via cam, not excessively, but this idea of, you know, it isn't just magic and tea time
and princess dresses.
Like that's
like a whole B plot in the beginning, which obviously I didn't cover because it's
because you can just watch it if you want.
Right, yeah. But it's like the whole thing of why she was so excited to go back to Coventry was because she's like, I want to wear like a princess dress. I want to get all the cool magical powers. Like I want to govern people. Like she's like, I want the power. You know, like,
do they still do this thing in film and television, I wonder, where they pigeonhole twins, but specifically in these types of, like, I can't think of any like male twin pairings, but I would assume if they had them in the 90s, it would have been, you know, like a jock bookish situation, because with the girls it's always like a bookish tomboy / fashionista popular child situation.
Yeah, it's like you're always one or the other.
Yeah, you know.
I feel like Zach. The last male twins I can think of was Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
And they didn't. Well, they did kind of.
They definitely
They did.
They
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
did.
It was like
They definitely did.
Zach was like the cool,
right, and then,
sportsy one,
and Cody was the nerd, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't think of any other like male twins.
Yeah, but I just wonder if it's still something that they do now, or do they allow these characters to be complex?
Yeah, I don't know. I actually haven't seen like a twin film in a minute either, or like heard of one either.
Yeah, what are the twins? Are there twins of the now generation?
Y'all let us know. Have there been any Gen Z twins that are like?
Well, I guess
I know there's like
Chloe
TikTok stars, but they're not twins.
you're right. They're twins
not
in
twins.
Grownish.
They're like
in
2
Grownish,
years
they're
apart.
twins, but they're not actually.
They're like 2
so
years
there have been
apart.
siblings. Yeah, there have been siblings. But
There's siblings, but yeah,
you're
I
right.
Think,
They're really
I
not.
feel like we haven't had another like really famous like twin
like a set
situ since since Zach and Cody.
Aren't there like some YouTube? Oh yeah, you said
yeah,
TikTok.
There's like
there's
TikTok,
like
YouTube people I know, but I don't think we've seen it in film as of late. I don't know what happened. Like, are people like against the twins now?
I don't know if they're against the twins. I wouldn't be surprised though if it's a thing where people realize
It's hard to find though.
Yeah, one, it's hard to find, and then although in theory you think it wouldn't be that hard to find because that's what they do with babies all the time. But not everybody is trying to make their kids into Mary Kate and Ashley,
yeah.
You know, and like have them stay in that forever.
Yeah.
But that tends to be how they get started. Like that's how the Sprouse twins got started. You remember they were in like Big Daddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Friends.
Yeah.
But I also wonder if it's a thing that we've learned to stop doing. Like it just doesn't work anymore because maybe kids would watch it and be like, "You're putting them in a box."
I could totally see some of these Gen Z kids saying that.
Be like, it's like they're more complicated than that. Like they're not.
They did call Jackie Kennedy ugly. So
what?
Did I not tell you about this?
No.
This is a total aside.
Yeah, you can skip ahead if you want, but I want to know.
Yes, on Twitter.com, one of the teens, I'm pretty sure she was a teen, said that she had been lied to and told that Jackie Kennedy was a pinnacle of beauty, but she looked like, quote, a foot. So
what is you know what? 2020.
It was honestly one of my favorite tweets of all time because I was just like you're not wrong.
But
why
does she look like a foot though?
They said she looked like a foot.
In what? I'm literally looking at my foot right now, just so y'all know.
She is. She's actually glancing at her foot.
To try to understand.
They just said that she was not as beautiful as people had portrayed her. And I was like, okay, I just think it was a different time and also like European beauty. Like white people were literally a different standard of beauty. Also, she was mad rich. B, she could dress her ass off. And that matters a lot.
It really does.
Like if you can dress and you're not what are conventionally attractive, you can still make it work. But old girl was also rich as hell. Yeah. So it kind of didn't matter for her.
And she was like young. She was like a young first lady. It was a whole thing about
her. Yeah, she was very young. And charming. I feel like she had a great personality.
Like her and JFK, you know, like the young.
Yeah,
they're the young hip couple.
They were
on the politics scene.
They were.
So the young hip Irish couple, you know, with a little bit of that.
Yes.
That hot blood, not hot blood, but you know.
I don't think she was Irish.
Jackie, she wasn't Jackie
O'Hara.
I think
Jackie was
O'Hara.
Her last name was O'Hara.
No, wow, that's Scarlett O'Hara. We gotta go back. Like, let's. You know what?
It was
You know what? I think we should get back to the film.
Was it Radziwill? No, that was her sister married that Polish prince.
No, isn't it?
I don't think they were.
Isn't it Jackie O?
Yeah, but that's because she got remarried to Onassis. No, her last name was Bouvier.
Right.
They were French.
Okay, cool.
Anyway, this has absolutely nothing to do with witches.
I'm sorry, y'all. That was a deep.
But yes, all that's it. But I am agreeing with you where I feel like maybe kids now might be like, it's too caricatured.
Yeah.
And would catch it in a way that I feel like our generation
did. Yeah, no, we were like,
didn't care.
I was always like, I'm a Mary Kate. I'm a Tia.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I definitely latched onto that.
To the two different archetypes.
Yeah.
But yes, so it was very interesting to show that selfish versus selfless thing. You know, also the fact that we feel like the production design in this one was a lot better.
But that's still, like, let's be real. That hand coming out of darkness, it was Mr. Game & Watch, y'all. It was literally Mr. Game & Watch's hand coming out of the darkness. I was like, am I playing Brawl? This is...
It was great. Also, they have a polar bear in their room if you want a little Easter egg. I don't even know if that's considered an Easter egg, but it's funny.
It's gigantic.
It's like a gigantic polar bear in like now Cameron and Alex's room, and it's randomly pops
it's not
up
that it needs
scenes.
to be addressed, because it doesn't. Like, it's just decor, but I feel like if you have an animal that big in your room that isn't an obvious animal, you know, like
yeah, because it's like, why would you have a polar
something?
bear? But again, this is why I'm like, they're in Canada.
They're
closer to the Arctic Circle.
So yeah, so they're lions, tigers, and bears. The bear is a polar bear. Obviously, it's a white bear.
So that makes perfect sense.
It tracks. That tracks for sure.
Yeah,
that tracks more than the independent study.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this movie is. It's not a particularly good movie. It definitely could have. When I was watching it, I felt that it didn't need to be 2 films. I feel like they could have made this whole storyline 30 minutes long and tacked it onto the last film, and that would have been a complete film. And it would work because, and it is something that I do appreciate about both these films, is that their runtimes are short and they are very tight. Yeah. They do not waste time with extraneous detail, and I appreciate that.
And they have small casts,
because they recognize that they don't. I mean, and that really could be a budget thing, but they recognize that you actually don't need to beef the story up that much, which I appreciate, because if you know that you're telling something that's threadbare, adding to it doesn't help.
Yeah.
You know? It only gives me more things to pick and, just dissect.
Right.
And come at. Because I do enjoy to come at them. But when you keep it sort of, light and airy and just crisp and tight, then I'm like, all right, but at least you didn't waste all my time.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But, yeah, this didn't need to be its own film. It could have easily been at the end of the other one.
Yeah, I agree. It also did not need to be a completely separate movie. I mean, again, it's like, I'm happy to see my favorite, twins, my favorite biracial twins doing their thing and being magical and, black girl magic all over again. But, yeah, this didn't. Either that or I feel like they should have done a completely different plot.
Yeah, like, if Danto's coming back, it's like, all right, but, okay.
They also never explained the timeline. Like, we don't know how far after the first one was supposed to have happened. It's like we just know that it's Alex's first day, so that either means that this must be a January start or it has to be the following August start, because the last one had to happen on Halloween because that's their birthday. So it's like what.
But they weren't. But I think that the working theory is that it's January.
Yeah, because they didn't seem too far removed,
and they didn't seem very summery. Now again, it's Toronto, so who knows?
Yeah,
but they didn't seem,
because it also didn't feel like January in Toronto.
Exactly. Well, I mean, but they're shooting. I don't know.
We don't know. I don't know. We don't know. But the timeline didn't really make sense because they made a joke about it only feels like that happened yesterday.
Yeah, and you're like, but it didn't.
It definitely couldn't have, because how could old girl have gotten enrolled in University of Toronto so quickly?
Yeah.
Because she wasn't enrolled, as far as we knew in the first one. She was just trying to get by.
She was trying to get a job.
Right. She wasn't trying to go to school.
Well, we don't. I think that was part. Wasn't it part of it that she should be going to school, but she was like,
I gotta afford it, but
I gotta get off your couch, homie.
Right.
I gotta move from this couch into this cot.
Oh, also, Lucinda is not in this film.
She is not.
We don't see her again.
So Alex has been completely absorbed into Cam's world.
Basically,
is what we have learned. But here's what I will say. Like I said at the top of this film, in my opinion, is definitely funnier than the first one.
Yeah, I agree with
But
that.
it is important to note that I do not believe that was on purpose. I think that just happened by the nature of what was shot and what was compiled.
Yeah.
And what was edited, put together, and then put on the screen. Because I was deeply entertained. I said to Chelsea, Chelsea, I know that you don't drink, but I think it would be an excellent drinking game. Phenomenal. Even just sitting down and sitting with a glass, and every time that the CGI gets a little worse, take a sip. You will be in a great. By the end of it, there's a great shot of it at the end when they're fighting Thanos of Tia Mowry. So is that Artemis? Alex? That's Alex.
Alex.
Alex. He kind of throws her into the air. And I guess she's supposed to be like slow-mo screaming while in the air, but it goes on about 4 seconds too long. It is way too long of a shot, and watching Tia Mowry do that in what I'm sure was a green screen room for that like 6 seconds that it's happening on my screen was the highlight of my day.
Yeah, no, Nina was dying.
I think, did we have to pause it or run it back?
I think we did.
Because I fell out.
She was dying of laughter.
I was like, why did they, like,
she's right, it's like, it just goes on a little bit too long.
Why didn't they
Because I'm like, I
cut
understand we need this shot to establish that she's flying off the side of a building. But it's also
and like... it is not, she doesn't even look terrified enough. You know what I mean?
Like,
It's like, it's like she gave them the budget version of that performance.
Yeah.
Because
they were probably like, you made us use our own Porsche again.
Again in the film.
Again in this film.
Because y'all, it was for no money. We don't know if any of that's true. This is just pure speculation.
Yeah, no, we're just, at this point, we're just making
We've made up a whole backstory.
That's our theory, though. I think I looked it up and said the budget was like $26.2 million, so I'm pretty sure that most of that went to Tia and Tamara and
I would
Porsche.
assume.
Yeah.
And their trailers and such. Yeah, just the general.
Yeah.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
For them. You
definitely, know? Definitely. Because the first one I think did very well viewers-wise.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. Because it's Tia and Tamara doing magic.
Doing magic.
Like,
Twitches.
More... Yeah, and it's called Twitches. Like, that's a great... That is a great title.
I think
and
it's based
Twitches
off
2
of a
is
book,
even a great
right?
title. I actually don't know.
Yeah, I think it's based off like a series of books about twin witches.
That's not surprising.
So, you know, it's cute. Would you, do you think you'd show it to the chillins?
They go watch it. I don't need to be there, and I don't need to.
Nina only wants to pop in for that one. Yeah, one CGI part.
That one, yeah.
She's like, let me know when they're up on the tower,
and I'll come and watch it. Wait, run that back in. You know, like that's something I would keep as like a video, like a clip on my phone.
Yeah.
When I'm having a bad day, I just play that. And be thankful that Tia Mowry exists and that she gave me that. So
shout out to you, Tia.
For real.
And Tamara.
Yeah. I've been rewatching the game too, and sister, like just the whole. I'm so happy those twins exist.
And is it Tamara that was on the game?
No, Tia's on the game.
Tia was fully on the game by this point, by the way. Like the game had started a year before.
Right. That was the other thing that we...
I remember we looked it up and we were like,
realized.
What? The game started in 2006.
Which is also probably why these films are so tight, because they literally don't have that much footage. She was like,
no.
I'll give y'all 10 days.
I'm 100% sure that Tia Tamara's agent was like, you have a week.
Get it done.
You have a week and we will give you access to the Porsche. You better get that access to the University of Toronto buildings. And that's just what it's going to be.
And that's a $20 million deal, just to be clear.
Right. And they're giving you a discount, $10 million each. So let's see it. Let's see the coins.
So good. But yeah, it was very... I'm not mad that I watched it.
No, this was.
It was enjoyable.
It was an enjoyable one. I agree. I would also definitely show this to my kids. So funny unintentionally, but I also just think, especially if you're little, it's a fun one to watch.
Yeah, it's a fun concept. It's a, again, like if I have girls, they'll be little black girls and black girls
doing magic.
Like, yeah, eat that up. Get as much of it as you can. So.
The fashions were better in this one, too.
Yeah.
They weren't bad in the first one, though, I will say. There were just a lot more headbands.
Yeah, I mean, it was loud, though. There was a lot of bright colored pattern mixing on Tia's part.
And a lot of,
on Alex's part, not Tia.
Pumas and, long jeans.
Like boot cut.
Which I forgot.
Like
the longer than boot cut. I forgot bell bottoms. They were a lot of bell bottoms.
But they weren't were they true bell bottoms? I feel like they were.
No, they were the bell bottoms that were popular in 2005. Which were
aren't those boot cut?
I don't know.
Because I remember I used to wear a lot of boot cut jeans.
I don't think those are boot cut. Because
they
look longer.
No, they weren't called boot cut. They were called flare.
Yes.
Flare
That's
jeans.
what it is. Because I'm like, boot cut's a
Jazz
little bit
hands
closer.
abound.
Yeah, no. A lot of flare jeans and Pumas. Which was very much a thing in 2005.
It was, we went through puberty in that era.
I know.
Isn't that crazy?
I don't like to talk about it. There was a point where I wore gauchos.
Maybe that's why maybe that's why I don't like pictures now. Because when I was little and I'd look at all my pictures, I was like, oh, that doesn't look quite right.
Remember Ed Hardy?
Remember Ed Hardy? I had a pair of Ed Hardy sneakers, and they were my favorite sneakers. I liked them more than I liked my Jordans. You had a pair of G Unit.
I had a pair of G Unit sneakers.
Oh my God, Chelsea, you were so deep. You were in that cut.
And I don't know.
You have to find them.
Yes, but I'm
if
also
we
like,
find
who
them,
bought
we'll
these for me?
Take a picture
and I'm like, this must have been something that my dad was like aware of because I wasn't. Like I was like 12 or 13. Like I didn't.
I'm gonna get her these J's.
Yes, I mean my dad also wore this little boot though. Do you remember when Birdman had like a shoe line called Lugs?
No. Which is crazy because like I love hip hop. No.
I think that was his label, and my dad had a pair of those.
What?
So I guess that explains a lot.
That is wild.
But yes, I was stomping around in my red G Unit sneakers. In PE class, because I specifically remember my PE teacher being like, "Are you gonna run in those?"
Those are not running shoes.
They're not, and I was just like, "Yup."
That
I didn't know any better.
Phenomenal. See, this is why this film is great. Because it's alright. No. This is why this film is fun to watch because it might take you to this place where you remember for Chelsea or find out for me that your friend had G Unit sneakers as a tween.
Loved my G Unit sneakers
and loved them dearly. So yeah, if you gotta kill an hour and a half, it's a fun way to do so, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. I'd recommend honestly rewatching it just for the fun factor.
It's a fun Halloween night to do both.
Yeah. Do a little double feature
on like October 5th.
Yeah, I was gonna say some random day you could just do it.
Yeah, just do it early.
Yeah, it's like a fun one, and obviously not scary at all. Like unless
Well, I mean, I feel like a kid. I feel like if I were little, I might be a little freaked out by the shadows. Yeah. Not in the first one, because that's not real. That's obvious. That's a joke. But in the second one, when that creepy voice is calling Artemis, like I feel like if I were 4 through 7.
You might get scared.
I might be a little unsettled.
But as a grown adult, I don't,
No.
I mean, I know some people are more scared of things than others, but this is really like such a harmless,
Harmless is a great way to describe it. It's a harmless film.
Harmless scares. There's not even jump scares in this, so.
There really aren't.
Yeah.
It's a lot more just fun. It's a lot more watching like two twins be twins on screen. In theory, like that's.
It's like I'd say other than the fact that their birthday is Halloween, it's more akin to like Now You See It than like Don't Look Under the Bed. If you guys have seen Now You See It, I know we haven't reviewed it yet, but like I'm just remembering from when I watched it. But it's just like it's a movie about magic, but not necessarily a scary movie about magic.
Yeah, that's a good way.
Yeah,
good way to say that. But yeah, so that's Twitches 2.
That is.
And I guess we will catch you guys next week.
Yep, with a new one. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Critics Kingdom. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify and SoundCloud so you can stay up to date, as well as interacting and letting us know what you guys think on social media. You can find us on Twitter at Critics Kingdom and on Instagram at The Critics Kingdom. We're excited to talk to you again next week.